Hello, everybody. Good morning or good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this. But you are listening or watching the Total Basis podcast right here live on Baseball Life, the greatest baseball Facebook group ever. I am your host, Felipe and with me, as always, is Sean Flannery. Sean, how you doing?
I am great, man. Got some interesting stuff to look at, and even something that we kind of beat baseball savant on, possibly. I
That's
mean, I
impossible.
kind of, I kind of took a hint from Mike Petriello when he put it on Twitter, but he released an article that on something that we talked about last week. So we're gonna recap that, and that should be fun. And he does a much better job of explaining it than I did last week.
No way, man. You know what? You explained it perfectly last week. You're counting yourself too short here, and rapper too short. But
Jose
but we're not.
Altuve short.
Well, speaking of which, we are going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the game seven. Not too much about the game seven, but just the 7-game series of the Astros and Rays. What I want to do, Sean, is maybe do a little bit of a recap or a post-op or something to I don't know what went right and what went wrong for these two teams, the Astros and the Rays. And we probably should do it for the Braves and Dodgers, but we are flying blind. We don't know who's going to win because it's game 7 today.
Two game sevens. Yesterday was the last day until next year that there will be two simultaneous baseball, well, not simultaneous, but two baseball games on the same day. Isn't that sad?
Yeah, wait till next year. So,
Yeah.
but you know what? I guess we can't start this show without really talking about the Houston Astros. Um, it who
Who are
knew?
we, Dong City?
Well, we're not here to bash the Astros. And Leon says hi. Hello, Leon.
Hello, Leon.
You know, the Astros, right? So,
Yeah.
what did we learn from the Astros? We learned that yes, they still have a lot of talent. Yes, they have a lot of their good players are still good. Uh, and the problems with the pitching that everybody was getting them at the beginning of the season, it turns out it's okay because they have all these prospects ready to step in and step up for the team when the team needed them the most. The Framber Valdez's, the Jose Urquides of the world, and really, it's just it really isn't a celebration of sorts of what this team was all about from the very beginning. And now every team wants to copy them. You know, they want to take what they did and try to emulate it, but they're finding out that it's hard. It's not easy to just screw all of this. We're going to start from scratch and rebuild from the very beginning. That's why I always tell Cub fans, are you sure you want to go through that all over again? Because there's no guarantee this time around. Because every team's doing this exact same thing. It's not like Theo Epstein's ahead of the curve. No, there's like maybe 10, 15 other teams who are doing it better than the Cubs at this point. So the technology is there. Yes, the technology was also in the video surveillance and all that. But, you know, even then, you still, like Ben Lindbergh said at the very beginning on the onset of all this whole thing, this shouldn't be a big deal. And I thought it wasn't going to be a big deal, but, you know, the Yankee fans got affected. So it got turned into a bigger deal than I think it should have. But that's where we disagree here. But even Ben Lindbergh said at the very beginning, I don't think this is a big deal. It's probably not the only team that's doing it. It's just that the Astros have the most intricate, most divisive way of doing this. And
blatant, really.
Really blatant, yeah. And it's wrong, but I always go back. This is a sport full of cheaters. From the very beginning, this freaking sport that we love is full of cheaters. Cheaters want to cheat. And, you know, it's what was I going to say here? What do you expect? You bring in the you know, this replay system and you got cameras all over. You didn't think these players were or these general managers weren't going to encourage these players and these players weren't going to take it to town and go with it. Sean, maybe you can explain this to me. I don't understand why the moral superiority always falls on baseball players when the NBA constantly cheats, right? Or,
Yeah.
you know, supposedly always cheats. I mean, we had a referee admit that, yeah, I shave points. And not just the NBA, but point shaving scandals are running rampant all the time, it seems like, in basketball, but no one bats an eye on it. Football players have been using steroids since, I mean, the steel curtain of the 1970s, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've been on steroids since the very beginning. No one cares. And hockey, well, no one cares about hockey. So, but it's like baseball, I don't know, man.
They
Baseball
literally
always,
have to beat each other senseless for people to care about hockey.
And then they die, and all the enforcers, all the guys who used to beat up on other guys, they die, and no one cares. They die before they hit the age of 40, and everything. Oh man, that's so sad, eh?
Hey, but at least they got to beat the hell out of some people during their 20s.
Yeah, fuck them. They all die. Screw them, And I don't know. I just will never understand why baseball players, because this is from the very moment that this turned out to be a game where the best hitters would only be able to hit over 30% of the time, has been full of cheaters who try to win, cheaters who try to lose. And I don't understand why people can't let it go. I mean, the due process was done. The Astros proved that they weren't a fluke, that they, just like Barry Bonds didn't need all those steroids. The Astros proved that they didn't need the surveillance anyway, but they still were competitive in 2018 and 2019 when they supposedly stopped cheating, according to the Manfred report, which Yankee fans refused to believe in, even though they believe that they did indeed cheat in 2017, as explained by the Manfred report or the commissioner's report. So I don't know, man. Maybe, Sean, I that's my little spiel. Maybe you can explain to me why baseball players need to have this higher superiority in order for Americans to feel good about their sports in 2020.
Yeah, I know we talked about it before, but it's, like a lot of the players that came out and spoke against the Astros and the specifically the players on the Astros, singling out certain players, saying they lost all respect for them, that they didn't respect them as, people anymore. And it is some sort of, kind of moral high ground, but it's all of these teams, even the teams that players were criticizing from, they're looking for any sort of advantage. And some of those advantages that they're peeking into really do blur the lines. And of course, the Astros, what they did completely blew past the line. But all these other teams, they pushed that line too. And they've probably pushed past it as well. And of course, hopefully now with this being done and the fallout of it, no team will try and do something as blatant and as cheating of the game as they did. We can hope. But coming back to, the Astros kind of, finally falling short, fighting back from the 3-0 deficit. I am honestly shocked at how well they did. You have to consider they lost their ace, Justin Verlander. They lost their closer, Roberto Ozuna. They got all of 4 at-bats from their reigning Rookie of the Year, Yordan Alvarez. They had, down years from their studs in the regular season, but they did show up, as we'll see later. They did show up in the postseason, guys like Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa, and they still pushed it to a Game 7 of the ALCS. I think that's remarkable.
It is. It speaks to their depth and their organization. I mean, they're not the best prospects, but it's deep enough where they can just complement the core that they have. And Alex Bregman, Carlos Correa, Jose Altuve, for better or for worse, Jose Altuve is still part of that core.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Bregman was a complete non-factor really in the entire postseason, and especially in this ALCS.
Well, you know why? No trash cans.
The trash cans, obviously. Yeah.
The trash cans, obviously. Yeah. It can never be like one guy could have a bad series, or maybe the Rays are very, 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 very good pitching staff. But let's get to it, man. Just wanted to touch on some reality here in terms of these scandals. I don't think we dealt with it as much as our counterparts on Monday nights do, but I feel like if this proved anything, it proved that the Astros are still going to be a thorn on people's side, whether they want to admit to it or not.
Yes, they are.
Let's get going. So we usually do the win probability added stuff because it is the playoffs and we want to see which players showed up the biggest. And we talked about a lot of these players already, so we're not going to touch on all of them, but I do want to just pick on a few select players here, Sean, if you don't mind. Starting out with Ji-Man Choi, which according to Baseball Reference had the highest WPA among all Rays hitters. How do you like Ji-Man Choi for next year?
Like I said, I think, and I said this going into this year as well, I feel like Ji-Man Choi, even though he is like the cult hero on that team and in that organization, I feel like with Nate Lowe in the wings, his time is being counted. Granted, at his defense at first base is much better than Lowe's, and maybe, Lowe gets shoehorned into DH, which wouldn't be a terrible idea. But he was great. I want to say when I was watching the broadcast last night, they said that he had like a 9 game on base streak so far in the postseason. As you can see, he batted 385, had an on base over 500. Or I guess you don't have it up, so you can't see. But 1100 OPS. He was just always getting on base. He wasn't getting out, and that's very, very important.
Yeah.
People say that walks are all you're doing is walking to first base. That's not the most important part of being walked. The most important part of a walk is not recording an out.
Yep. Yeah, and then once you get on base, it's. I've done research on this before, and it's not the fastest guy who are the most productive base runners. It's the guys who get on base the most who are the most productive base runners. If you ever look at the stats for on Baseball Reference for runner moving from first to third, guys like that, or scoring from second to home, it's usually the guys who have the highest on base percentage. When I did it back in 2013, it was the Joey Vottos of the world, that slow-footed guys who were running around the bases like nothing. Why? Because they're always on base. That's with G-Man Choi. Yeah, when you're on base, that's half the battle. You're on board, and you could do some damage. You could score a run. You could disrupt. You become a disruption for infielders, and outfielders have to take account that, okay, there's one out, but there's a guy on base that could potentially advance if I'm not paying attention, if I'm sleeping, if I don't take his speed seriously. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think that is the most important thing about taking a walk is you're not recording an out, but you're also getting on base, and you have to be accounted for by the other team. Okay, so Leon has a question for us. He wants to know if Manuel Margot's power is for real. I don't think so, but maybe you saw something that I don't see.
I'm looking at his Savant page because right when he posted, Leon sent that, I looked it up, and he did post or tied his career high in exit velo. The expected slugging was still pretty low. Yeah. I just don't think he's that kind of hitter. It kind of reminds me of all the home runs he's hitting now in the postseason, when Orlando Arcia a couple years ago had like the 3 or 4 home runs for the Brewers, and he had like 3 all season. And that was over an entire 162 game season. I think it's just one of those, I don't want to say flukes, but a fluke.
Did they announce who won the MVP of the series? Are they
Randy Arozarena?
So speaking of which, he's number 2 in the WIPA, the win probability added WPA at 0.32, right behind G-Man Choi. But he had a hell of a series: 4 home runs, 6 RBI, another 1,100 ops. Is he for real? Is he someone that we need to move up our rankings and target for next season?
I really do like him, but his price is just skyrocketing through the roof right now. And it's one of those, it's just the sample size is going to be too small that I'm not going to buy in at that price. But, Kevin Cash has been calling him the Cuban Mookie Betts. Every way they keep changing how they pitch him mid-series. He did have 10 strikeouts and 28 at-bats this series, which is a little worrisome if they get to, or obviously if they get to the World Series. When they do get to the World Series, that's something that better pitching could possibly expose. And we know the Dodgers and Braves both have pretty good pitchers, as we've seen in their series. But I think he is for real. I mean, 4 home runs, becomes the first rookie to win ALCS MVP award. Happy for him. Good story.
Really quick, Mike Zunino hit 2 home runs.
Yes, he did.
And only got on base at 300%. He posted at 300 on base percentage. So typical Mike Zunino stuff. I'm glad that he's in regular season form for the playoffs. An all or nothing hitter here at catcher. But man, can you believe that the Rays are advancing to the World Series with Mike Zunino as their catcher?
They showed in the broadcast last night that from their 8 and 9 hole hitters, they had a combined, I believe, 11 RBIs, which is just like insane to think about. But when that happens, good things happen. If the bottom of your lineup is producing like that, you're probably winning games.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, I just want to run this list really quick, and you tell me which player you want to talk about. Joey Wendell, who you know what his problem is. It's like he's left-handed. He got shut down in this series. Austin Meadows, you know what his other problem is? He's left-handed. Also got shut down in this series. Mike Brousseau didn't get a lot of at-bats, so I'm not going to count him. Brandon Lau?
Yes.
That's his name? You know what his problem is?
Let me guess. He's left-handed.
Yeah, and they're all at the bottom of the list here in terms of WPA, negative 0.2 or higher. Which of these three players did you want to touch base on right now?
I believe if the Rays are going to have a chance against whichever team they face in the World Series, whether that be the Dodgers or Braves, whoever wins tonight, the Rays will need Austin Meadows to get going. He was their best hitter, both for average, for power. He was just a complete hitter in 2019. And in 2020, he dealt with, I want to say he maybe had COVID or another injury, and he missed some time, and he was kind of a late start, and he just hasn't gotten going yet. But if Austin Meadows can somehow, just get a hot streak in him, just all you need is 5 games, 6 games, 20 at bats. If he can get 7, 8, 9, 10 hits, good things should happen for the Rays. I think he is their key in the World Series. They need that offense to really snap out of it. It's been really home run or bust for them. As you saw, they hit 11 home runs while striking out 81 times, only batted 201 in the series. That offense is going to need to step up, and to do that, they need Austin Meadows to do what he did in 2019.
Well, you know why. You do know why their offense struggle, right?
Why did it struggle? Because they got a lot of left-handed bats.
Well, that's the number one problem is right there. Is, you got to switch it up a bit. The whole infield's left-handed, right? But the other problem is, in terms of batting, they're all left-handed. They throw right-handed. Anyway, jokes aside, analytics, man. Analytics is ruining the game, and it's ruining the Tampa Bay Rays from dominating these playoff series. I don't know if you saw the comments in the thread last night, but yeah, it's like, oh, analytics. That's the reason the Rays are losing, or they're going to lose this lead, is because of analytics.
It's like when Charlie Morton got pulled out of the game. I saw so many takes on Twitter about that. Oh, they pulled him with the shutout, and he was only at 66 pitches. Well, guess what? The Rays have one of the best bullpens in baseball. This is how they got there, by using that bullpen. And guess what? The bullpen carried them. They won the game.
And maybe the Dodgers would have done that for Clayton Kershaw. Maybe Kershaw wouldn't have gotten exposed in his game against the Braves. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. Anyway, let's take a look here. We got on the big list, Carlos Correa, Jose Altuve, Michael Brantley at the top of the whip-up page for the Astros. I want to touch really quick on Jose Altuve. 3 home runs, 5 RBI, 462 batting average. I don't know, man. I don't know about you, Sean, but he seems to be okay as a hitter, and we can maybe rest to peace this whole idea that he needed the buzzers and the trash cans to be productive. Or
yeah, and I mean, it's even going back to the study that the one fan did about, he broke down how often the trash can went off, and Jose Altuve had it for like the lowest percentage of bangs or whatever. And some say, oh, that's because he had a buzzer on his leg. I mean, there were even reports in the commissioner's report that several players said that there were people on the roster who did not like it and did not want it to be used for them. Simply looking at it, you can kind of decide on who those guys were. The 3 that were at the very bottom: Tony Kemp, who came over halfway through, Jose Altuve, and the third name escapes me. They were all like under 3 or 4% of bangs compared to everybody else. So do with that what you will. Everybody thinks he's a dirty cheater, though. I still like him. I hope he does well.
I think they're all dirty cheaters. If you're a baseball player, you're a dirty cheater in my book, but I still love you. Okay.
Just like our Dynasty Guru team that we got going. Everybody on our team cheats.
I wasn't sure if we were going to touch on. Are we going to talk about that today? Or no?
Just a little bit. I figured I'd throw it in there.
Awesome. Well, I already mentioned this on the football podcast with Matt Bushnell about Carlos Correa. Are you okay if I mention him right now in terms of that Dynasty League?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So Carlos Correa, we picked him in our Dynasty League 30 team league, and we picked him as our 2nd round pick. Correct?
Yeah, that sounds about right. It was 70 overall, so maybe our 3rd.
Well, at any rate, that's our shortstop, mid-20s. It looks like he's finally back from that back problem issues that he's had over the last couple of years. had the highest WHIPA here of .40. I mean, he came up big in big-time situations this playoff series. And the most important part about him that's very important to us is that he cheats. So he's going to be very productive on our team. He's going to have all the angles figured out, and he's going to hit all these home runs and hit for a higher on-base percentage than he did this past season. So we all know who Carlos Correa is. Michael Brantley, we all know who Michael Brantley is.
Pending free agent. He might be elsewhere on the move next year.
Who, Brantley?
Yep.
Yeah, you think he has maybe maybe 1 or 2 seasons left on his tank?
Yeah, I think he's going to get somewhere between a 2 and a 3-year deal. I don't know where he's going to go. Obviously, that's going to be decided if the National League keeps the DH. That he can still play the outfield, but a team that signs him is probably going to want to rest his weary little legs since, one, he does have an extensive injury history, and 2, he's pretty goddamn old.
Yeah. Really quick, here's the reason why the Astros lost. You had George Springer, Kyle Tucker, Yuli Gurriel, and Alex Bregman all under negative .2 WPA. Which one of these names? I mean, okay, besides Alex Bregman, because he's at negative .81.
Yeah, like I said, complete non-factor.
And maybe he's the one who misses the garbage cans and the buzzers. I don't know, but I mean, I don't know. He only struck out once, which, to us, that's always good, right? Oh, I'm sorry. He walked once, struck out 5 times. I misread. But still, that's not like 10 strikeouts like Randy Arozarena or even I think Brandon Lau also struck out 10 times.
Yeah, he had a couple of probably 2 or 3 double plays hit into. He had the one real tough luck to end the game, hit that line drive right at Joey Wendell.
Yeah.
The ball almost went through Wendell's glove. He didn't look good, but he also looked like he hit into a lot of bad luck as well.
Yeah, that's what it looks like here too. But I mean, them's the breaks. Your big players have to show up in these situations. But aside from him, because that's the obvious one, George Springer, Kyle Tucker, and Yuli Gurriel, who was more disappointing to you in terms of these numbers?
I think Kyle Tucker, because Kyle Tucker had been so good both in the wild card series and in the division series, and he just kind of fell apart. And it's not an indictment of him. I mean, you look at this Rays pitching staff, they have a lot of great lefties, and they just kind of abused him. I mean, this was his first playoff experience, really, being a full-time player. I think he had been on the roster last year, but didn't really play much. And it's all of a sudden when you're facing guys like Blake Snell and Josh Fleming and Jose Alvarado, I mean, these guys that lefty on lefty is just, it's difficult. That's hard.
Lefty on lefty crimes.
Yep.
Speaking of pitching, here we go. Rays, they had Charlie Morton showing up big time. Blake Snell showing up big time. According to win probability added, this is the percentage that they added more to win these games than to lose these games, right? Basically, that's the dumbest way I can explain it to you. I'm sorry. Diego Castillo, we talked about him in the Yankee series. Pete Fairbanks, who we talked about, I feel like we talked about him numerous times, and Aaron Sledger's also at more than 0.10 WPA. Anybody in particular you want to talk about there?
I do want to highlight that Charlie Morton once again got a W in a win or go home game, winner take all game. And that gives him now 4 wins in winner take all games. I think the next closest pitcher has 2.
Wow. I hope he pitches at least one more season. I know we talked about it last time that he might retire if he doesn't get his contract renewed with the Rays. But it looks like this playoff series is showing that he still has some gas in his tank left as well.
Oh yeah, he hit 97 a couple. He was definitely pumped up last night. He hit 97, and it was great to watch him last night because he was pitching. I mean, he was throwing hard, but he was pitching. I mean, every time that Mike Zunino put up his glove, I mean, it was ball glove. Inside corner, he was painting to lefties. And then he, of course, he had that great curveball, and he got a lot of ground ball outs as well. He was definitely at his peak, and he seems to be at his peak when his back is up against the wall. And that's why he's done so well and had such a great win probability added because, I mean, he basically won the game for them last night with his pitching, even though he didn't even make it out of the 6th because Rays bullpen, but he was just that dominant for the first 5+ innings.
On the other side of the spectrum here, Tyler Glasnow at negative 0.20, 1.667 whip. That's not going to cut it. 6 ERA from the one game that he pitched. And then our bullpen guy, one of our favorites of this past year, Nick Anderson. It seemed like he was getting torched by the Astros. I'm kind of curious about Nick Anderson. Did you see anything in particular that might have exposed him in this series?
No, it might just be kind of what we saw with Chapman, cumulative overuse. Obviously, in the Yankee series, he had that 40-something pitch outing, and I think we might have seen some side effects of that. Of course, the big blow for Anderson this series was giving up that walk-off to Carlos Correa that extended the series, so that's going to really hurt him and win probability added as well. But we'll see that he'll have an extra day off, hopefully get his batteries recharged, because when he's on, he's dominant. To see him pitch 4 1/3 innings and 0 strikeouts, that's like, I almost can't believe that.
Yeah, like I said, he was, 2.308 whip. Yeah, they almost lost the game last night. If they were going to lose that game last night, it was almost because of him. And that's really unfortunate because he's been their relief face all season long.
Yeah.
Over on the Astros side, Ryan Presley, who, I don't know, man, he had a pretty shaky year this past year, I think, but he came up big in this series for the Astros. Got the 2 saves, got the highest WPA among all pitchers. We all know about Framber Valdez. We mentioned Jose Urquidy. Zach Greinke showed up, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk in this series. This guy named Andrew Scrub, which that was the butt of all jokes in this baseball life group that we're in. And by the way, for those who are listening, you can always join us live on Sunday mornings at the Baseball Life Facebook group. Little cheap plug there for later. But we talked about all these guys before. I don't feel like we need to touch base on the pitchers that showed up for the Astros this week. So let's move on to the negative side of things. We mentioned Enoli Paredes before, and he got torched in this series. Lance McCullers also, he had, it shows that he has a negative 0.31 WPA, but he also had 18 strikeouts and only 1 walk. So I don't know. I'm assuming that he, bad luck was involved there or whatever.
Yeah,
but.
in game 2 that Tampa won, that was the game that started Jose Altuve's little fielding yips. And in the first inning, they hit that 3-run home run that all of those runs were unearned. And then last night in the winner go home game, he was starting, and he really didn't look bad. Gave up 2 2-strike home runs, one to Randy Arozarena, who just, they couldn't get him out. It was just like home run almost every other game, it felt like. And then Mike Zunino actually had pretty good career numbers against McCullers for, by Mike Zunino standards. He was actually batting like 240 against McCullers. And, McCullers has that great knuckle curveball, much like Charlie Morton. And earlier in the series in game 2, he hung one to Mike Zunino, and he hung another one last night, just a cement mixer that Zunino plastered like 430 feet. When Zunino makes contact, he launches that ball.
Yeah.
It's just making contact's the hard part for him.
All right, let's move on quickly to the Dodgers and the Braves, because I want to touch base on that really quick with you while I have you on the air right now. So we still have a game 7. We're undecided as to what's going to happen there. I mean, we still like the Dodgers, right?
Yeah, I think the fact that it's still going and they're going to game 7 now that has to not work out in the Braves' favor, I would think.
Do you happen to know who's pitching tonight? Because I can't think.
Ian Anderson is scheduled to go for the Braves, I believe. And for the Dodgers, I would assume a combination of Julio Urias and
Dustin May.
No. Oh God, what's his Gonsolin?
Interesting.
I would think it's going to be some combination of that, because their bullpen, Trinan's been used like 3 or 4 days in a row. Jansen's been used 3 days in a row. Much like the Astros last night, they started the game with McCullers, and then Urquidy came in, and they had Greinke up if the game got tied and went to extra innings. So I think the Dodgers are going to throw nothing but starting pitchers out there tonight. They might throw a couple of relievers like Adam Kolarek, lefty on lefty to face up against Freddie Freeman possibly. But I think this is going to be two main starters. It's going to be Urias and Gonsolin to try and get them through to the World Series.
As of 12 hours ago, according to MLB.com, Dave Roberts did not establish a starting pitcher for tonight's game. So
of course he won't. He never does. He's terrible about that. And then he turns around and complains that other teams don't announce their lineups or their starting pitchers soon enough.
And
goddamn hypocrite.
Well, that's why he's the best manager in baseball, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, this has to be it, right? Ian Anderson has been marvelous this entire playoff series, but this has to be it, correct? I mean, he can't keep catching lightning in a bottle. As good as he is, he's gonna get exposed eventually, right?
Yeah. In his first start in game 2, he only gave up 1 hit, no runs, but he had 5 walks to go with his 5 strikeouts. Yeah. This Dodgers lineup their numbers don't look great. But if you look at them over the last 3 games, that they've won 2 of the last 3, and they almost came back in game 2, and then they had the big blowout game 3 that they won 15-3. I feel like these Dodger bats, they got shut down by the rookie Bryce Wilson, but the last 2 they've just been not going down, and I think that all started game 2 in the 9th inning, where the Braves almost gave it away. So close. Yeah. They came within 1 run. I think the Dodgers scored like 5 in the bottom of the 9th, fell just short, but that momentum has stuck with them. And they just kept hitting, and now we're in game 7.
Speaking of which, hitting, Freddie Freeman and Marcell Ozuna have been, in terms of the WPA, even in terms of the raw numbers, they've been carrying this lineup all series long. And we all know who Freddie Freeman is and Marcell Ozuna are. So I mean, it's no surprise to us. So let's move on to the negative side. And this might be the reason why the Dodgers have been keeping it close with the Braves, is because the Braves are not showing up at the key moments. I mean, let's see. Ronald Acuna has a negative .07 WIPA with 320. I can't read my own screen here. A 606 ops. But we all know who Acuna is. So,
yep.
So anyway, these are the players that are really struggling. Austin Riley, 24 at bats, 410 ops. As his struggles continue into this postseason. Any hope for Austin Riley that he could become anything at this point? He
had the big home run against Dustin May on, I want to say game 4. I've never bought into it. I just don't think the hit tool is developed enough. But when he's a lot like Zunino. When he makes contact, the ball just flies off the bat, and it makes that sound. I know when he hit the home run against actually it wasn't May, it was Trinan. It was a 2-strike count, and Trinan threw him a sinker, and I don't know why anybody would do that. Austin Riley can't hit a breaking ball to save his life, and you're just gonna pump a sinker right down the middle, but it just made this glorious sound. I think it was like a 450-foot home run, but I heard
it from Chicago. I heard it all the way to Chicago.
It was the shot heard around the world.
It was louder than the trash cans, the big bang right there. It was louder than the trash cans the Astros used. But Christian Pache, who has been called in to play for Adam Duvall, and I didn't think I would come to this point, Sean, that the Braves dearly miss Adam Duvall's bat in the lineup. But Christian Pache comes in. He has done absolutely nothing with this opportunity, except, he plays what we knew this. We talked about it in season before about Christian Pache. Fielding wise, excellent. He's ready to go. I mean, we saw him do that one play in who did he rob?
He robbed another home run last night.
Oh my God. Yeah. I can't even keep up with it.
Yeah.
But Pache is really struggling with the bat. 673 ops, negative .18 in the WIPA. So anytime he's on board, he doesn't do anything. I mean, I know he has a home run and 4 ribbies, but he's, according to the metrics here, he's caused more grief for the Braves than actual good.
Yep.
So let's see, pitching, and then we can move on. Oh no, we haven't even done the Dodgers yet. Sorry. Will Smith, he got jiggy with it against Will Smith, right? Is that what
Yep. Yeah, I had the Will Smith on Will Smith. It was Gemini Man in baseball.
Corey Seager, we talked about him. He is back in better than ever. Edwin
Stud.
Rios, short stint here, but he already has 2 home runs for the Dodgers, and big time home runs too in big key situations. Now the struggles. AJ Pollock, negative 0.32 WHIPA.
He's not good. I don't like him.
He had a good regular season. I mean, he had 881 ops, 276 batting average. But he's not good in the series. Man, just like that, we're going to stop believing AJ Pollock. Terrible. Justin Turner also struggling in this series, even though the batting average is up there in terms of WHIPA, negative 0.20.
He had a big home run last night in the first inning that gave the Dodgers the lead or extended their lead, which they would never give up. They got to Max Fried early. Justin Turner's always hit lefties well. Max Fried, of course, is a lefty. Max Fried did do a pretty admirable job. He went 6 2/3, 6 2/3, 7 innings, something like that last night. Even though he gave up the 3 earned runs in the first inning, he came back and locked them down for the next 6, really saved their bullpen. They ended up losing and he got the loss, but going into game 7, most of their bullpen's going to be their A-list guys are all ready to go because Max Fried was able to eat innings, and that's going to be a pivotal thing. Walker Buehler had a great start as well, but Los Angeles had to play that game to win, and they had to use their A-list guys. So their A-list guys are going to be a little bit tired, while the Braves are going to be slightly more refreshed.
Also, Cody Bellinger, 174 batting average, negative 0.08 WHIPA. So he needs to show up. I know he has a 1 home run, but he needs to show up more than this. I mean, they need more out of him. They need him to be Freddie Freeman. What the Braves have with Freddie Freeman, Cody Bellinger should be there for the Braves and not Will Smith. I mean, as much as you like Will Smith, I mean, he's not the answer to this this Dodgers offense. Let's move on to the pitching side. Bryce Wilson, you mentioned, another one of those rookies that the Braves refused to flip over for a veteran, and he's lucked out big time, catching lightning in a bottle. Had a marvelous game in this series. Ian Anderson, we talked about. Max Fried, we talked about at length. Chris Martin, was he the former Texas Ranger there?
Yeah, he was the sinker slider splitter that they traded from the Rangers last year, and he was under contract this year.
So they'll show off the bullpen, but not the rotation. That's very interesting. But I mean, that's the reason why they're here, right? Because the bullpen has been lights out. So Bryce Wilson, I guess. I mean, I know they have Kyle Wright. Sorry, Kyle Wright as well. But any hope that Bryce Wilson becomes that mid-rotation starter that the Braves are desperately looking for towards the future here?
He could be. I'm not ready to crown him the trifecta of, Glavine, Maddox, and Smoltz like some Braves. Like I saw on Twitter, it was, imagine the next 5 years of Anderson, Wilson, Fried, Soroka, and Kyle Wright. And I'm like, first off, Kyle Wright just got his ass kicked on national television and just looked embarrassed. Bryce Wilson had a 4 ERA in like 15 innings this year and comes in and only gives up 1 hit and it was a home run. And I think that was more of just the Dodgers didn't know what to look for with him. But second time around, we're going to see it tonight as well. Second time around, the Dodgers got to Fried early. Look for them to do the same against Ian Anderson the second time around facing him.
And then and you mentioned Kyle Wright, negative 0.39 WHIP. Will Smith, I'm telling you, man, the regular season numbers show that he was pretty good, but that 4 or 5 ERA in the regular season was a red flag for me. And he got torched in these 3 games that he's been in so far, posting a 3.00 WHIP. You have to be some kind of bat to post a 3.00 WHIP. This is the big free agent acquisition for the Braves.
$15 million a year.
Wow. Yep. It was a good signing when it happened, but he's just not been the same. I don't know what's going on. Negative 0.30 WHIPA. Buyer's remorse there for Atlanta. And let's move on to the Dodgers really quick because we need to get going here. Walker Buehler, Texas Ranger. We talked about him. Just a gutsy performance. Has superseded all my expectations here, Sean. Remember we talked about the concern that they're not letting him pitch enough innings. I mean, he's already 11 innings pitched in this series, so he's making us turn around on him. Victor Gonzalez has a very high, relatively high WIPA, even though he has a 2.00 WHIP. I don't know what the hell's up with that.
whipping only a 2-inning sample size is always very finicky.
Okay, well, all right then. Bruce Stark Gratterall, I don't know why he's showing up on the list with an 11.57 ERA, but a WHIP of 0.14.
He had a big out, I believe, in game 5.
Okay.
Yeah. He came in with like bases loaded or something like that.
And I know he's been very doing
demonstrative.
A lot of
demonstrative. There we go.
So it's kind of a mixed bag with him in this series. Let's move on to the negatives. Blake Trinan, we mentioned, he's still, I mean, you saw it in his facial expression that he couldn't believe what just happened when Austin Riley just torched his sinker ball, a fastball out of the ballpark. What'd you say, 450 feet?
Yeah, and, it was a moonshot.
Yeah, almost hit the moon. Tony Gonsolin also on the negative side here. And the Dodgers are going to have to count on him to step up big time. Clayton Kershaw, for obvious reasons, also on the negative side. And there you have it. I mean, there's the Dodgers problem, a lot of guys who showed up big for them in the regular season and throughout those playoffs are just disappearing little by little. And this is what we're learning, isn't it, Sean, that in these championship series, that sometimes the best players are not going to show up, and that's when the depth comes through, right? And the reason the Dodgers are still in it is because they do have depth, but these other guys need to step up, and they need to step up big time here if our predictions are going to come true here.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at Mookie Betts. He only has 5 hits, no extra base hits. But Mookie Betts has single-handedly probably saved their season at least 2 or 3 times in this series alone. The last 2 nights, he's made fantastic defensive plays. He made a shoestring and then doubled up Ozuna. Ozuna had actually crossed the plate and they had counted it as a run, and then they reviewed it and found out that he had actually caught it, and they were able to double him up. And then last night, I want to say it was Ozuna, maybe Freeman, hit a ball right out to the edge of the warning track, and Betts had to jump at the wall and catch it. And it's really been defense that has kept the Dodgers in this. All around the infield, Betts, Bellinger in center field, they've played very good defense, as well as the Braves with Pache in center.
So it's going to be a fun Game 7 for sure. Something has to give, obviously. So I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully we're a step closer to seeing the Andrew Friedman World Series that we all deserve in 2020. Because, yeah, I can't speak highly of him enough. And shame on me because I always forget the Tampa Bay Rays general manager. Who's in charge of baseball operations down there?
Eric Neander.
Eric Neanderthal? Okay, awesome. Let's where do you want to go? We want to talk about our prospects, right?
Finally, let's knock out our prospects.
Awesome. Well, so we have a treat. So yeah, this is the Total Bases podcast, right? We talk about everything here, everything baseball related. We're gonna speak on it, and this is something that we've been wanting to do all off season is talk about these little known prospects, because as you know, Sean, these little known prospects just kind of show up out of nowhere within time, right? They just will come in and take over the baseball world by storm because people were sleeping on them. Are you able to see the screen? Because I can't. I'm flying blind here.
Yes, I can see it.
Is it big enough? I don't know if I should make it bigger.
Yeah, that's what she said.
That's what she said. For those people watching on their phones, I'll make it 200% right here, right? Why not?
Oh.
And the pitching too. Why not? The pitching. I got to go around because I'm using 2 screens here. So there's the hitting. I got Josh Lowe. Are you going to tell me that's Josh Lowe?
That is Lowe.
Well, I'm high on him. Josh Lowe.
I saw Josh Lowe play a lot when I worked in Montgomery.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of, he was the bonus baby on that roster. Him and Jesus Sanchez. I don't want to say there weren't a lot of brains in that dugout, especially with the star power in Josh Lowe and Jesus Sanchez, guys that are physically gifted and, very able when it comes to their baseball talents. Lowe is a little bit of a high risk, kind of has a lot of he reminds me of a more athletic Jock Peterson. What do you like about him?
Well, I like the pitch selection figure right there. I'm assuming that's based on an 80 count, right?
Yeah.
I just
Did you get that from Fangraphs?
all of this is from Fangraphs. I just noticed that they had this stat up. Like, how did I miss it the first time around? This is the first I've seen of this pitch selection, so I added it in there. But I like the power, the speed, the power speed combination. As you can see, the raw power is at 60, and it's already there according to Fangraphs. It's a 60 speed as well. And the future value of 50. So that means that even though he's ranked as I'm moving around this sheet, even though he's ranked at number 54 on the Fangraphs list, I have a good feeling that he's going to move up just because that's how natural progression goes.
Yeah.
But of course, the one thing I don't like about him, he's
left-handed.
Yeah.
Yes. He could play major league outfield right now. Can play center, much like Jock did when he first came up. Better suited for right field. He's got a cannon of an arm. He's just a really good athlete. But the bat control, I guess, that they had up is a little thing to be worried about. But the fact that he did walk more this year, as I see you put in your notes, upped his walk percentage, was something that the organization I know was very happy with, just from my conversations with guys that were in the organization. They said they liked what Josh Lowe did last year.
And the other reason I bring him up is because I know you used to work for the Biscuits, so the Montgomery Biscuits.
Yes.
So I figured you had some intel on him. But no, I mean, this is what I look for in outfielders, man. Just give me some power, pitch selection, give me some walks. He had 18 home runs in Double-A in 2019 as a, how old was he? 21, 22-year-old.
Yeah.
So no, that's the reason I like him.
And he didn't tear it up like his brother Nate Lowe did in Montgomery, but he was still pretty damn good.
And I look forward to him moving up on the rankings as well as outfield. I'm always looking for outfielders in my in any keeper league or I don't do dynasty, but any keeper league I'm in, I'm always looking for outfielders. So because it's complicated with me. I as you can see, I'm still struggling to kind of explain my prerogatives here, but trust me, I'm looking. Okay, so you know who's a good example that he kind of reminds me a little bit, not a lot, but a little tiny bit. Not as good, but just the profile. It kind of reminds me of Jared Kelenic.
A little bit. He is a very poor man's Jared Kelenic.
Yeah,
I just don't. He has more loft, and that's why I give him the Jock Peterson, because already now it's like Josh Lowe has that uppercut, and it's something that they tried to work on and then realized that it was doing more harm than good to try and just overload him. And they said, just go hit. And he did pretty well. And he's got the good power speed combo. So,
and let's move on to your guy, Carlos Cortez from the Mets, 23-year-old. And I had to double and triple and quadruple check this. So he bats left-handed, but he's a switch thrower.
He's amphibious.
Amphibious.
He was actually drafted twice by the Mets. The first time in 2016 out of Oviedo, Florida. He turned it down, where he went to South Carolina, played a little bit of second base, a little bit of outfield. He very much is a positionless player, but he is amphibious, like I said, and I'm saying that on purpose, and I will continue to say it. When he's on the infield, when he plays second base, he throws right-handed, but he's not a very good fielder. He had like 17 or 18 errors in the Florida State League in 2019. Only played the outfield for like an inning. But when he plays the outfield, he throws left-handed, which is how he bats. But on the infield, of course, he's going to throw right-handed. Pretty interesting thing. He is only 5'7". And in your notes, it says not much pop. And he's actually kind of changed that. Obviously, you look at his slash line and you see a 397 slug, and you're like, that's not very good, like that. He must not have much power. The Florida State League, especially Port St. Lucie for the Mets, is a notoriously pitcher friendly environment. And he still hit pretty well. He struggled against lefties, which really dragged down the numbers as a whole. He reminds me a lot of Daniel Murphy. He really does sit back on that back leg, and then the way he coils around, really good bat speed. And he has traded in some of his contact ability, like making consistent contact. He's traded a little bit of that in to even tap more into his pull side power, but he's someone that can go the other way very easily. He doesn't as much now that he's trying to hit for more power, but if you look at him and you watch the film on him, you just see like this 5'7" guy go up there and you're like, what is he going to do? He doesn't really even look like a baseball player. But he limits the strikeouts, walks a good bit, has good barrel control, always seems to barrel balls up. I'm not sure if he ends up staying with the Mets. Like I said, his defense is definitely an issue, but I could see him going somewhere and actually being a really good hitter. Obviously, he only has the 260 or so career average in the minors so far, but I think there's definitely more in there. And as he moves up, because he is a college player, he'll probably end up at Binghamton when we come back. He's a good hitter. Keep an eye on him. He's outside of the Mets top 20. He's not even going to sniff the top 100 probably in his entire career, but neither did Jeff McNeil. And we all see what Jeff McNeil is now.
So I see the Mets have a certain approach when it comes to drafting. And speaking of approach, I got to mention Jacob Anthony Moses from the Ball is Life, the Step Back podcast on Wednesday nights, also agrees that he loves Carlos Cortez's approach. And really quick, we see that there's a game power and there's raw power. You mind explaining the difference between the two for our people out there?
Raw power is basically what you're going to see a guy put on during batting practice. Just how far can he get it? Game power is how that player shows it in a game, obviously, kind of in the name. But it's one of those, does he have a lot of raw power, but the way his swing is and the way his approach, can he successfully tap into it consistently in a live game setting? Or is he more of just, like a doubles gaps guy with the potential for a couple of long home runs?
Yeah, and I just want to make sure I don't confuse people, because in the notes I said it's not much pop, but then his raw power is the same as Josh Lowe's. And like I said, you mentioned the slugging percentage, and I also saw the isolated power numbers, and like, wow, this is like a punch and Judy hitter, but he's still an above average hitter according to weighted runs created plus, WRC plus, which is a stat that's used a lot now. And finally, the future value is only at 40 compared to my guy Josh Lowe. So you think it's going to get a little bit higher than that in terms of the future value that Fangraphs like to use?
Yeah, I don't think the future value will come up too terribly high just because of his defensive limitations. And he's not a fast runner. He's definitely just one of those hit first guys. But usually those hit first guys, they find a way to get onto rosters, and if they hit, they usually stay. And
like a Tommy LaStella kind of guy.
Yeah. I was looking for a comp and you nailed it. That was a great comp. I love it. Tommy LaStella, Carlos Cortez, Tommy LaStella comp. I'm here for it.
Yeah, so he'll be playing for the Angels in no time. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Let's move on to the pitchers. I should probably make this a little tiny smaller because it's. So let's start with your guy first, Matt Tabor.
I believe it's Tabor.
Tabor, 22-year-old, throws right-handed, ranked number 13 on the Diamondbacks farm system. He's out of the outside the, I don't know. I don't even know how many. I mean, because my guy Braylon Marquez is at rank number 108. So Matt Tabor is out of that ranking, maybe 120, I guess. I don't know. He's doing 2022. So I guess my first question is, why is he doing 2022 when he's a little bit older than Braylon Marquez here?
When it comes, he was a third-round draft pick in 2017 out of high school. So he's been in the minors. I made his professional debut in 2017. Only threw a handful of innings, then threw 60 innings in 2018, and then 95 innings in 2019 at A-Ball in the Midwest League, where he was dominant. And the thing that I like about Matt Tabor, just to start off, is someone, and I've said this before, that throws strikes. How often do we see in the minors? We see starters, they rack up crazy strikeout numbers, and the walks are kind of high, but we brush it off as, oh, he's in the minor leagues. He'll work on it. And then they get to the major leagues and the stuff is there, but they can't control it. And guess what? Major league hitters aren't going to, get themselves out on the majority. You have to get them out. And Matt Tabor has already shown and proven that he has command. And the fastball doesn't have elite velocity. It sits, 90, 94. But the thing that interests me a lot about him is kind of his evolvement reminds me a lot of Jacob deGrom.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's going to be the next Jacob deGrom, but there is a connection to Jacob deGrom, which I want to get to. But he's a fastball that sits, low to mid 90s, has a good changeup. Jacob deGrom always had a great changeup. He learned it from, Johan Santana in the minors. But Matt Tabor in 2019, Tabor really had his breakout year in 2019. He threw 95 innings, struck out 101, only walked 16. But the big reason he had such a breakout year in 2019 was he developed a new pitch. And I saw in your thing where it says NA next to slider, because Fangraphs they haven't updated it. They say he doesn't have a slider, but he does. In 2019, he met up with Carson Cross, who is now a pitching coach in the Brewers organization, minor leagues, and they developed him into a bullet slider, which, for those that don't know, it's more of a gyroscopic. The main difference is you don't see the seams that create the dot that, when somebody says, "Oh, I saw the red dot, so I know it's a slider," and that's what hitters do. With the gyroscopic sliders, they don't have that. And who else throws a gyroscopic slider? Well, basically every Mets pitcher in the last 6 years. Jacob deGrom developed one. Noah Syndergaard developed one. And he actually picked it up from Kevin McGowan, who was just this relief pitcher farmhand. And they had both worked out with Carson Cross. And it's that Jacob deGrom, was throwing, 95 mile an hour sliders. Noah Syndergaard was throwing 95 mile an hour sliders. But it's that gyroscopic slider that's more of like a cutter, but it still has a little bit of depth to it. Even though it is more horizontal in movement, there's still depth to it. And so he starts throwing that this year, and all of a sudden he becomes a much better strikeout pitcher, because in 2018, in 60 innings, he only struck out 46. Now all of a sudden he's averaging over a strikeout per inning. So he went from really a fastball changeup with plus command to a fastball slider changeup with plus command, and the ability to command all three. So yeah, I like him. And Arizona's really seemed to be on to something the last few years in developing pitchers, it seems like. So I think they got something going on out in the desert. I'm looking forward to them.
Yeah, this was a very impressive profile, because I look at it, I'm like, wow, 45 future value. So, I mean, that's means to me that's like a mid-rotation starter. But as I dug deep into his numbers, yeah, this is somebody that we need to keep an eye on to see if he can continue to just be, because he's not a flamethrower. He's not anybody that's like what do you call it? That's gonna
light up the radar gun.
Thank you, light up the radar gun. But he does have some intriguing stuff that makes him a very steady, very safe pick in the future, especially for fantasy baseball purposes.
Yeah.
So
and it's so really odd to see out of a high school pitcher too. In his first 3 years, he's walked only less than 30 batters in his first 3 seasons, albeit only in 150 plus innings, but still.
Right. And then let's see, my guy, Braylon Marquez, who's the opposite of your guy. First of all, he throws for the Cubs, 21 years old. I think I put on my thing that he made his debut this year. Tall, lanky kid, no AA experience, but the Cubs desperately were in need of pitchers. So they went out and brought this kid up from the minors, or not minors, but the taxi squad or whatever. Left-handed pitcher, number 3 on the Cubs ranking, number 108 on the Fangraphs ranking.
There you go. Right outside the top 100.
Yeah, ETA was for 21, but he already arrived, and as raw as he is, I mean, but this is the reason why I got him, man. So when I'm looking at pitchers, I'm like looking, okay, whose fastball just pops up like on this list of that Fangraphs has, and Marquez was the one at the 70-80 fastball. And if you can see, the slider is also kind of working as a decent secondary pitch, according to Fangraphs. So if anything, this might be a guy that the Cubs can develop as a bullpen arm coming out from the left-handed side, which I don't remember the last. Well, I guess I could maybe name a couple, but hopefully this is one of the answers to a lot of the Cubs' prayers and getting a really good bullpen arm to come out of the bullpen. Again, a little bit raw, only 21 years old. His body needs to fill out a little bit. Like I said, tall, lanky kid. Commands an issue,
Yeah.
but obviously. But, future value is at 50. So the Fangraphs actually believes in this kid to be moving on up in terms of developing. Change up, I have a bad feeling that that's never going to come to fruition. And the command needs to improve if he's going to stick in the majors. But it seems like he does have the stuff to really stick around, at the very least, as a high leverage bullpen arm. What do you think?
Yeah, just looking at his Fangraphs page so far, they have developed him as a starter, and the walks really haven't been terrible aside from 2019, where in his A-ball, he averaged had 5 walks per 9 in 77 innings, which isn't great, but he balanced it out with a K per 9 of almost 12. Anytime you have a 6'4" lefty with an 80 grade fastball who in his debut this year averaged 98 miles per hour, that's going to play. And they're going to give him every chance in the world. I mean, if a lefty can hit 95, they give him every chance in the world. Just imagine a lefty that throws 98, 99. If the third pitch does develop, if the changeup is a serviceable pitch, if he can command that, both the slider and the changeup, he's probably a starter. If one of them just doesn't work out, then like you said, he's a high leverage reliever, which if he is straight up as a reliever, that fastball might play up even more.
Yeah, and again, rank that number outside of the top 100. I mean, it's a very intriguing pick for me, and that's why I wanted to bring him up, Braylon Marquez. So, and especially for the Cubs, who have a reputation for not being able to develop any pitching whatsoever, which we talked about with Pierce Johnson, how he's kind of developed this niche for the Padres in a previous episode. So, and that's the prospects. We're trying to do one hitter and one pitcher every week as we get ready to wrap up our first season of the Total Bases podcast. Yes, we are going to go with a season to season format. This is we're nearing the end of our first season ever, our first complete season.
Are we going to have a cliffhanger episode?
We're going to have a cliffhanger episode where where previously on the Total Bases podcast, Felipe was going to go for a circumcision. I don't know. Did he call through? Did he follow through? Did his insurance cover it without an authorization? So we're looking ahead. Let me see. Where's my calendar? Better if I have visuals here because I can't memorize. So we're going to have an award show after the World Series, right?
Yes.
It's going to be more fantasy based, but I'm going to make it fun for myself because aside from the MVP and the rookie and all that, which I forgot to mention that to you, Sean, the rookie stuff, rookie of the year stuff. I need to get on that. But it's going to be a little bit of fantasy baseball centric, just because. Why not? It is a fantasy baseball show first and foremost, but we're going to try to expand and be all things to all people. And that's going to come after the World Series. Well, obviously, we're going to recap the World Series as well, because the way that we do it, then that's through analysis and player evaluation and team roster building and all that. That's just why you tune in every Sunday. And then I didn't get a confirmation for you, Sean, but did you want to talk about the Hall of Fame ballot when it comes out?
Yeah, I don't mind. I like talking Hall of Fame stuff.
Yeah, so that's going to come out November 16th. So we're probably going to talk about it on November 22nd, which leads us to Thanksgiving. And we'll be off for a week, maybe 2 weeks. And then winter meetings come, which we don't know what that's going to be like because of COVID. So we'll see how that goes, but your boys will be here talking about the winter meetings, and then we're going to be off for Christmas and New Year's, and we're looking to come back. What was it, January 4th or 11th?
Something like that.
I think we were saying we were going to come back in January 10th to start season 2 of the Total Bases podcast, and we'll start all over again for next year. Because you know what I don't like, Sean? Like for example, I don't want to pick on them, but I like this podcast, the Effectively Wild podcast with Ben Lindbergh.
Yes.
And they're like an episode 1700. And that's like, whoa. That's so big of a number.
That's so big.
Yeah, it was 1700. That means I have no reason to listen to any previous podcast ever because seriously, I don't. But I feel like this is a more easier way to digest these episodes because I know we talk a lot of stuff about current events, right?
Yeah.
But I like to believe that there's a little bit of something for everybody. I mean, we do make a lot of proclamations. We do make a lot of scouty and analysis reports on players and teams. So it's going to be fun to look back at some of these old episodes and see how some of these players developed, a year or two after the fact that we make these episodes. So that's that. Did you want to touch base on that dynasty? I know we're over the hour already, right? I can't
the dynasty, not just yet because the draft is still going, but I did want to just share this. Just want to kind of preface it. I'm going to leave the link to the article in the comments below. But for those of us that were with us last week, we talked about what makes the A's so effective. And you both using the opener as well as, all of these seemingly random John Does that they pull off the street. And I talked about, all these different arm angles that the Rays have really started analyzing and looking into, and that each pitcher that comes out, you're getting a totally different look. Fairbanks up by the ear, Loop all the way over here to the left, Ryan Thompson all the way over to the right. Well, Mike Petriello of MLB.com does a lot of great StatCast work. He was the one who had kind of put me onto it. I think he was already getting the article right. He was writing it when he posted something on Twitter that got me looking into it. And he put up some great graphics. Here they are. I have the screen shared. Oh my gosh. But look how different all of these release points are. Ryan Thompson's all the way over here. Aaron Loop's all the way over here. And then two games later, you have Pete Fairbanks throwing 100 miles an hour from the right over the top. And at the same time, you still have to face Ryan Yarborough, who's over here to the left, Ryan Thompson back over here to the right. Mike Petriello goes really in depth. I think this was my favorite graphic right here. And this is from the catcher's point of view. And this is the release points in matter of feet. Ryan Thompson's all the way almost 4 feet off to the right, while Aaron Loop is over 4 feet to the left.
And I got to go like this, Sean. I got to put my arm like this and really visualize it with, like, if I'm the catcher with the glove on.
And then he's coming all the way from this side. It's wild. And it's, guys like Loop and Thompson, they both are the second most furthest release to that side, and they're both in the bottom 6 and lowest release point. It's really cool information here. I'm going to link it. I'm going to go ahead and post it in the comments. Feel free. It does great work. But it was just one of those things that I'm glad I talked about it last week, because Mike Petriello posted this on Thursday. And right before the show started, I pulled up Baseball Savant, as I always do. And I saw that, and I was like, we talked about that. And it was a really cool moment.
Can you go back up a little bit?
Yes.
Where the dots are?
This one? This one?
Let's see. What's that? That's a release point from catcher's point of view? Yeah. I can't see it, though. You still need to go a little higher.
There's the two of the 2 starts, and then there's the one with all across.
Okay, just that one right there. The 2 starts. I just want to point out just how consistent these guys are, as they are just – this is what we hear about all the time, right? Like your fastball and your breaking pitches and your off-speed pitches need to come from the same release point every single time, no matter what, because hitters will notice that big difference, right?
Yes.
So I just wanted to point out how consistent, or as close to consistent, all of these pitchers are. Thompson, Curtis, Castillo, Snell, Loop, and even Yarborough. Yarborough has to have the most variance on his.
But that's his thing, is like he just comes at you like all sorts of funky. So.
But it's just, yeah, that's a good point. But you're right. I just wanted to point out that this is what they're talking about. This is what Yeah, because like you said, hitters can't. And then Thompson over here at the bottom, there's that one the fastball that's
it was a little bit higher than everything.
And then all his other pitches are just like, what was that, like an inch, maybe half an inch below that.
Yeah.
And it's pretty remarkable how consistent these guys are able to keep. And it's not just, and you can, thank you. You can take away that, but it's not just the arm angles, but it's also, we hear about from other pitchers all the time that they got to work on their legs. Most of the power comes from their legs and their core. And, you know, I pitched just for giggles, and nothing too seriously, just for giggles. I tried pitching off a mound before. It's tiring. Like, if you don't have that condition to do that and be consistent, it is tiring, taxing work to go through all the motions and
and over and over and over again, and to maintain the perfect. It's really one of the craziest things.
Yeah, so I mean, kudos to all these guys who are able to do it on a consistent basis and be productive with it. And these are the results. The Rays are going to the World Series as they should, as they were the best team in the American League. And now we wait for the Braves and the Dodgers to see who will meet them in Game 1. So I'm looking forward to it. Anything else you wanted to talk about, Sean?
No, that's all for me. Maybe next week, since we did kind of bring up tunneling at the very end, I'll bring up a couple of Jacob deGrom's game log, all of his pitch release points. And, you know, if you want to look at, you know, obviously he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. And if you want to see like machine-like efficiency, and it's funny with him because he just has those long arms and legs, and you would think it would be so difficult to just maintain. And it's like every single pitch. The curveball, he doesn't throw it as much, but when he does, it is a little bit higher. But the fastball, curveball, fastball, changeup, slider are all coming out within like the same area, about that big. It's absolutely insane. But I'll save that for next week.
Awesome. Looking forward to it as always. And for those who are out there, you know, did you like what you heard? This content, this information? You can listen to us through a variety of ways. You can join us on Facebook and join the best baseball group out there, the Baseball Live Facebook group, or you can catch this episode on YouTube and catch all the visuals that you might have missed on Sunday morning. If you want to catch us tomorrow morning while you get ready to go to work, we're on all the big time podcast formats. Apple, if you listen to Apple, please give us a 5-star rating. We beg you. And, you know, I don't know what else they do. I'm not into Apple because I do Stitcher and Spotify, but we're also there. We're on Anchor. That's what we do to upload all our podcasts on. You can listen to us there. Leave a review.
Spotify as well.
And Spotify as well. Yes, thank you. Follow us. Make sure you follow us.
Yep.
And not just follow us, but when you follow us, Sean, you're also following the Life Group family of podcasts, right?
Yep.
Dong City is tomorrow evening. You can catch us there. What's on Tuesday? Tuesday's the Audible over at Football Life, and get some pigskin action with Matt and Randy. On Wednesdays nights is the Step Back. They just recapped the entire Game 6 of the NBA Finals and kind of putting the LeBron James legacy into perspective and wanting his respect. I thought they did a wonderful job. They keep getting better and better every week I listen to them. So props to Leon and Jacob, who are present in this podcast live. So thank you guys for the support. I really appreciate that. And then Friday morning, I think it's Matt and Randy again, although Randy is on hiatus, or not hiatus, he's on vacation more than anything. So I don't know who will be meeting Matt. Maybe it's me. Maybe it'll be somebody else. I don't know. Matt's full of surprises. And then we start right here all over again. We start your podcast week on the Total Basements Podcast Sunday mornings right here at the Baseball Life Facebook group. On behalf of Sean, I am Felipe. We'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody.